Sobriety Essays number 25. What about relationships? On April 19th, 1984, I had absolutely no relationship with anything. My drinking had destroyed the love and trust of a long-term marriage. I was a failure as a husband. A year before, my daughter found me sitting on a park bench with a gun in my pocket. I was a failure as a father one more time. Hated my job, my boss, and most of all, I hated me. Had everything, and I drank it all away, including my God. On that day in April, I reached out for help only because I knew that at that moment, if I continued to drink the way I drank, I was going to die. The help I reached for was a man at work who was an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Entered a spin-dry hospital and became the proud owner of an $11,000 big book. My daughter entered AA 57 days later by going to a meeting with a friend and only paid $4.50 for her big book. We're all both sober over 6 years. Guess it is not important how we got here. It is important that we stay here. Going to AA meetings did not mean that my life became all roses. At 9 months sober, the marriage hadn't improved. Still hated my job, my boss, and I still hated me. There were changes going on in my life that were good though. I just didn't see them when busy thinking about the bad. The relationship with my daughter was going beautifully. She was going to her meetings and I was going to mine, and we would meet at home and get out the big book and look for answers. Started making friends and going out to coffee after the meetings. A group of us went camping. At 9 months, I reached a second bottle. Once more, suicidal. My sponsor walked me through that day and taught me about love. That man sitting across the table loved me unconditionally. It was the first time I had ever allowed anyone to love me, and I knew that he loved me. I have never allowed to love myself. Married for 20 years, and it took a drunk helping another drunk not drink before learning anything about love. 2 days later, literally woke up in the middle of an AA meeting to discover I had a program. I discovered I was 9 months sober. Discovered that day that I wanted to die, I didn't think about taking a drink. This is what happened to me. At 9 months, I discovered sobriety as a way of life. Coming home from a meeting shortly thereafter, a thought occurred to me that tomorrow is none of my business, that tomorrow belongs to God. Just quit worrying about tomorrow. Driving home from another meeting, a thought occurred to me. I could not fix my marriage. It was either going to work or it wasn't going to work. It was God's business, not mine. I quit worrying about when she was going to serve me with divorce papers. My sponsor said to me, Chuck, you contribute to that marriage to the best of your ability so that if anything should happen, you can walk away with the least amount of guilt and resentment. Those are the two things that will get you drunk. I started to contribute to that marriage only because I didn't want to drink. People ask, how do you contribute to a marriage? It always gets a laugh when I tell them how I started. One of my wife's pet peeves with me was taking my socks off at night inside out and throwing them on the floor. She would in turn turn them right side out and put them in the hamper for washing. One day I decided I would turn my socks right side out and I would put them in the hamper. And I wasn't going to tell her what I was doing. 3 months went by and I couldn't stand it anymore. I asked her if she noticed. She said she had, but was afraid to mention it because I might quit. From the socks, I graduated to hanging up my clothes and picking up after myself. I started taking responsibility for my actions. I quit smoking in her car, not because she asked me to, but because I found I didn't feel guilty when I did quit doing guilty things. Most of all, I did these things because I wanted to stay sober. Okay, I made a checklist of what to do to contribute to my marriage, such as inviting her to participate in my activities and not getting a resentment if the answer was no. Participating in her interests and her activities without a resentment. I like to tell the story of searching for the right gift for Mother's Day. Found a box of chocolate I thought she would like. Upon opening it, she informed me that she only liked a particular brand. Instead of getting my feelings hurt, I ate the box of chocolate. Things begin to happen in my life for which there is no logical explanation unless you believe in God. At 11 months, that marriage did a 180-degree turn. Began to like my job and began to like my boss. But most of all, I began to like me. On October the 10th, 1989, we renewed our wedding vows and exchanged new rings on our 25th wedding anniversary. On that very day, I achieved 2,000 days of sobriety and needed each and every one of those days sober to get to that point in my life. On December of 1989, I was selected as one of the top 90 employees in a very large corporation I worked for. After receiving my award and walking out of the division manager's office in tears, he didn't know he was dealing with. He didn't know about the park bench or the gun in my pocket. He didn't know about the long drives to work while still drunk. He didn't know about the loneliness. He didn't know he was dealing with a sober drunk and an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. All he knew is he had a responsible employee. I am often asked in meetings by guys I sponsored or as a guest speaker, how did this happen? My answer is always the same. Don't know how it happened. I can only tell you what happened to me. My sponsor, very early in the program, had told me, what other people think about me is none of my business. It took several months to understand that one. It didn't mean not caring what other people thought about me. It just wasn't so important to me anymore. This gave me the freedom of being honest with my sponsor, and it was later to apply this in all areas of my life. One day, I quit working for my company and my boss. While still sitting at the same job I hated, I started to do the job to please myself. It was my name that went on the reports I turned in, and it was going to be done to the best of my ability. Until my boss would point out a defect, I wasn't going to worry about it. Came to enjoy that job and my boss. As a result, a few days ago, my company installed a telephone and computer into my house so I could do my work from home and not drive 2 or 3 days a week. I'm in several relationships today. A relationship with my wife and my daughter. A relationship with my job, my boss, my fellow employees. A relationship with my friends in and out of AA. A relationship with my sponsor and the guys that call me sponsor. A relationship with my God and a relationship with me. All of which are good relationships most of the time. Not all the time, just most of the time. That is far better than ever before. In conclusion, I have formed some beliefs about relationships. When having a good relationship with God, I am never alone. When having a good relationship with me, I am at peace with myself. Therefore, I can be at peace with you. Have come to believe in what are called truisms about my relationships. My wife is my wife. She is my partner. She is my friend. I believe that is all she was meant to be. First, she is not my higher power, and second, she is no longer my mother. It was a hard uphill battle to achieve those beliefs. If having an emptiness in my gut and looking to another human being to fill that emptiness, I am looking in the wrong direction. When turning to God and working the program, that hole has always been filled from within. I came to believe that in any relationship, be it at home, work, in a meeting, or with guys I sponsor, I can't fix it. I can't make it work. I can't control it. The second half of the first step tells me that my life is unmanageable. I became willing to let God do whatever the relationship I'm in at the moment. What he chooses to do, it is God's business, not mine. That is a tremendous amount of freedom from fear. found that it always turns out better by staying out of the way. The last thing is a can-do. I can contribute to any relationship to the best of my ability, so that no matter how it turns out, I can walk away with the least amount of guilt or resentment. For as my sponsor told me and believed today, two things will get me drunk, and I will want to stay sober. Heard my sponsor say at a meeting where he was speaking, and it was a beautiful thing to hear. If he was to lose that wife, the material things, the job, all that he holds dear, if he doesn't drink, he stands a chance of getting that all back. That has always meant a lot to me. It is a long way from that park bench where my daughter found me with a gun in my pocket to where I am today. There is no logical way for me to get from there to here unless you believe in a higher power. But for my own sake, I hope that I never forget that that distance from here back to that park bench is only one drink away. Hope that this writing helps someone. If not, it has helped me. Chuck H. Sobriety date April 19, 1984.